Well, talk about a surprise. If you told me I was going to make a video dedicated to Duck Hunt in the future, I wouldn't have believed you. But believe me now, this is the Duck Hunt Iceberg, and there's a lot more than you'd expect. Not only does this go over trivia about the original game, but also Smash Bros. And the other NES Zapper games, such as Wild Gunman, so we're in for a varied ride. I don't think you need an intro for Duck Hunt, but as a refresher, Duck Hunt is one of the first games released for the NES, which utilized the NES's trademark Zapper accessory. The game is incredibly simple, but that's what's so charming about it, and why it's stuck with people to this very day. It never got any official sequel or spin-off or anything, but its legacy is very prominent in media, and is referenced all the time by Nintendo themselves. But still, this game and many other Zapper games have so much history to them that you'd be surprised how deep it goes. This Iceberg was created by a user on the Iceberg Chart subreddit, but they don't want to be credited in this video, so I'll respect their wishes. Let's not waste any more time. Let's dive into the Duck Hunt Iceberg. Super Smash Bros. Duck Hunt, or Duck Hunt Duo if you live in Europe, make a prominent appearance in the Super Smash Bros. Franchise as a playable character. They're a zoner-based character that takes advantage of all the light gun game's tricks in order to control the battlefield. This is all thanks to the person behind the CRT screen shooting their zapper at the opponents, which would actually make their name Duck Hunt Trio, but you know. Overall, I think their inclusion in Smash is a very well-deserved one. Duck Hunt is one of the most famous video games featuring one of the most infamous characters in gaming. Also, the dog just looks adorable. Look at him and his little ducky friend. Level 99. Like most games at this time, Duck Hunt kept proceeding in rounds until the game couldn't physically keep going anymore. After you play round 99 like normal, you proceed to round 0. This round is impossible, as not only do some ducks just not appear and count as you missing them, when they do appear, they move at a speed that would give Sonic a run for his money. Yeah, it's almost impossible to hit them at this point, and after this, you're given a game over. This is another classic example of a kill screen. When a game is unable to progress any further, it glitches out like this. 99 is the limit for Duck Hunt, it seems. Duck Season. Duck Season is a VR horror game that is very obviously inspired by Duck Hunt. The game is normal at first, before descending into madness, with the dog being revealed as a serial killer that tries to kill the child protagonist. I think the game is a very unique experience, and I love the multiple endings you can obtain. Go check it out, either by playing it yourself or watching a playthrough. I highly recommend it. Muttley. Muttley is Dick Dastardly's sidekick in the show Wacky Races. He's a dog who often laughs at the misfortune of Dick, much to his anger. Many say this character was the inspiration for the Duck Hunt dog's laugh, as they both pose similarly and laugh at their master's misfortune. Playing as the ducks. This is something listed in the game's manual, but nobody reads, so this is somewhat obscure. If you plug in a normal controller and start game A, the controller can control the duck with the D-pad, which makes shooting the ducks either easier or harder. Wild Gunman in Back to the Future. In Back to the Future Part 2, there's a scene where Marty is inside of an 80s cafe, and two kids get an old arcade machine working. Marty recognizes the game as Wild Gunman and proceeds to show off his skills, but then the kids say,
"You mean you have to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy."
This is one of the first appearances of a Nintendo game in a film, and it's funny because Wild Gunman was never an arcade game. Technically, but we'll talk about that later. WarioWare. Since WarioWare makes frequent references to classic Nintendo games, Duck Hunt is bound to appear from time to time. The microgames are essentially the same as the original game, with having to shoot a duck or a certain number of ducks, or instead having to shoot clay pigeons in WarioWare Touched. The WarioWare games Duck Hunt appears in are the original, Twisted, Touched, DIY, and Gold. Duck Hunt doesn't work on LED TVs. Sadly, the original Duck Hunt cannot work on modern LED TVs. The reason for this is a little technical, but bear with me for a second. NES zappers are actually just giant light sensors. During any light game on the NES, if you press down on the zapper's trigger, the screen flashes black with white squares for the briefest moment. These white squares are actually the targets in the game. The zapper tries to detect any white light and, if it registers, counts it as a hit. The reason this worked is a quirk in CRT TVs. CRTs have an electron gun behind the screen that rapidly moves from the top of the screen to the bottom faster than the eyes can comprehend, which essentially draws every line you see on a CRT TV. Modern TVs don't do this, however. Every line is drawn all at once at the same time. Because of the lack of a delay compared to the CRT, the zapper can't detect the white squares it's supposed to detect and registers nearly everything as a miss. Despite this, there are mods available that allow you to patch in a delay to actually play any light gun game on an LED TV. I'll leave a link to one of these mods in the description if you're curious. Versus Duck Hunt. Shooting the dog. Duck Hunt on the NES was actually not the only game released in the Duck Hunt series. Versus Duck Hunt was released in April 1984 in North American arcades. While we don't know its exact release date, I'm going to make the assumption this was before the release of the NES game, as many of the sprites in the game are slightly different compared to the final game. Versus Duck Hunt has more differences outside of the sprite changes, however. It had true multiplayer with a second hunter using a second light gun, which was attached to the arcade console. And since it was an arcade game, you had only a limited number of lives. Every target you missed would make you lose a life. You had only 3 to start, so miss 3 times and you're out. The most significant change, however, was the bonus round. You had infinite bullets and simply had to shoot as many ducks as possible. However, the dog would also jump amongst the flock of ducks. And you know what that means? You could shoot him! This would end the round early, but I guarantee everyone who has played this game has done this intentionally at least once. Smash 3DS ESRB leak. 2 months before Smash 4 released, a 4chan thread leaked the unrevealed fighters in a variety of pictures. This is quite possibly the largest leak in Smash history, and weirdly enough, it was a leak that nobody believed in. So many people claim to see errors in the images, like how some renders are similar to other pictures, or there's inconsistencies with the top and bottom screen, or how Dr. Mario isn't with the other Mario characters, etc. Though I'd say the unfortunate star of the show here was Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt was the black sheep in the herd of newcomers, to the point that some people refused to believe in the leak because of Duck Hunt. Though, if I were to tell you 7 years ago that the Duck Hunt dog was going to make it in, and not someone from Brawl like Wolf or Snake, you'd probably laugh in my face. You'd probably also laugh if I told you Sora would actually make it in too. Zapper censorship. I think we all know how the NES Zapper was changed from a dull gray to a bright orange to make it not look as much like a real gun. Well, here's something you might not have known. You want to see the original Japanese NES Zapper? And you want to know what it's called? Gun. It's just called Gun. We Play. We Play has a minigame known as Shooting Range, which is essentially a modern version of Duck Hunt. Not only are you able to shoot down ducks for bonus points, but one level features clay pigeons as the main target. You're also given a lot more targets, such as balloons, literal targets, cans, which are a reference to Hogan's Alley, and UFOs trying to abduct people? Oh, the humanity! Banjo-Kazooie ult. Some people say that this ult in Smash 4 slightly resembled Banjo-Kazooie, mainly due to the red duck, but I can't really see it. Though this funny coincidence was given the spotlight in Banjo-Kazooie's reveal trailer, with the duo dressing up as Banjo-Kazooie as a prank. Smash Redemption Arc. It's heavily implied there was something that happened between the events of Duck Hunt and Smash that made both the dog and the duck become friends. It's unknown what caused their friendship, but they've definitely been inseparable for a few years now. Super Mario Bros. Plus Duck Hunt. This was a game pack that contained both Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt in one cartridge. This cart came packaged in the NES Action Set, which contained an NES zapper for Duck Hunt. Due to the Action Set's massive success, a Super Mario Bros. Plus Duck Hunt cart is much more common than the standalone cartridges for both games. You cannot beat us. This entry refers to a really creepy ad for the NES, which features multiple Nintendo characters saying how you can't beat us. This includes the Duck Hunt dog.
You cannot beat us. Aim your zapper gun. You cannot beat us.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. Pixels. Pixels is a bad movie. In the movie, there's an admittedly cute scene that features the Duck Hunt dog. Barker Bill's Trick Shooting. Barker Bill's Trick Shooting is a light gun game released in 1990, which is based on Barker Bill's cartoon show, if anyone knows about that. The game is generally obscure, but the reason it's here is because the dog from Duck Hunt appears in a major role. He appears as the host of a balloon minigame, where he'll trick you into shooting him instead of the balloons, and if you do, you lose a life. And once you get a game over, he'll laugh at you. Good to know nothing's changed too much about him. Mr. Peepers. There's a rumor that Hiroji Kiyotake, the dog's designer, said that the dog's name was Mr. Peepers in an interview. However, this is simply not true. No interview exists where Kiyotake called him Mr. Peepers. This urban legend seemed to have spawned from game facts, to no one's surprise. Melee Assist Trophy. While the ducks appear in Melee as, charming 3D models, they were planned to have a bigger role in the game. Sakurai stated that he planned to add an item called Assist Capsules into Melee. As said by Sakurai, we considered an item called the Assist Capsule, containing various game characters who could assist you, different from the Pokeball, but in the end, circumstances were such that we had to scrap it. One of the considered Assist Capsules was the ducks from Duck Hunt. It's said they would have simply flown across the screen, but I also imagine they sometimes get shot by an off-screen hunter to deal damage to opponents in the way, but that's my own speculation. Super Mario Bros. Plus Duck Hunt plus Track Meet. Much like how Mario and Duck Hunt were bundled together for the action pack, Super Mario Bros., Duck Hunt, and World Class Track Meet came in one cartridge in the NES Power set. This came with not only a zapper, but a power pad. I'm assuming it didn't sell as well, as not many people talk about this cartridge too much, nor the power pad. Duck Hunt Vans. In 2016, Nintendo started a collaboration with Vans for classic Nintendo-based products, including Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt got a pair of Vans shoes, a snapback, and a backpack with the dog and ducks printed on a pixelated camo design. The shoes also display Game Over on the bottoms of them. Honestly, it's a really clean and clever look. Live action and toy Wild Gunman. Alright, this is gonna be a long one. Long before the release of Wild Gunman on NES, there was a certain company that produced an arcade game about cowboys in 1969, and it's not who you're thinking it is. Sega! That's right, Sega created Gunfight, which would later become the inspiration for Wild Gunman. Gunfight wasn't like any traditional arcade game you're used to seeing. It's more of a giant toy you popped a quarter into to play. You had to shoot at your opponent a certain number of times to win, which you can achieve by shooting down their cover and stuff like that. Later, Nintendo, still known as a pure toy company, would take major inspiration from Sega and produced a toy named Wild Gunman in 1972. The game was essentially the same as Gunfight, but didn't use any electromagnetic systems, just balls you'd have to shoot to the opposing player. There would also be a toy named Custom Gunman released sometime in the 1970s, which used a light gun system. Shoot the cowboy in the target, and he'd fall over. There was also a lion target you could buy. This would all culminate in 1974 when Nintendo would release Wild Gunman as a fully fledged arcade game. Sega would later distribute this game in America in 1976. I'll be referring to this arcade game as Wild Gunman 74 to avoid confusion with the NES game. Wild Gunman 74 was quite honestly revolutionary for its time. This was the first ever full motion video game, or FMV. The cabinet showcased a projection of you going through a Wild West town, and you had to shoot bad guys in a similar way to the NES game. Wait until their eyes shined, and then whip out your gun and fire. Unlike the toy and the NES game, this wasn't a light gun game. You just had to pull the trigger at the right time. Footage of this game is incredibly hard to come by, as once the NES came out, people almost entirely forgot Wild Gunman 74 even existed. Oh, and remember when I said that Wild Gunman was technically never an arcade game? Well, I also said that it was one of the first appearances of a Nintendo game in a film, not the first. The movie Gas, released in 1981, has a scene that features the FMV Wild Gunman game, with footage of the game in really good quality. Here's that scene in action.
Duke Stuyvesant don't take shit from nobody. I don't want excuses, I want results. Boys, I started off at ground zero, huh? A punk kid in a pair of black jeans. Huh? I walked into them damn Texas oil fields 49 years ago, huh? Yeah, with nothing but a pair of hands, a strong back, plenty of steam, a bit of deceit, and a whole lot of bullshit. I lived the American dream. I built an empire.
Yes, Daddy. Sure did, Daddy.
Sure did. Now that you got your college diplomas and you're allegedly grown up, I think you're only missing one thing. Ball!
Oh, come on, Daddy. I tried. It was all his fault.
Afraid you got a little short change in that department. Nothing to do with the old man, of course. Oh, hell. You know that old saying that it don't matter whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game? That's bullshit. The bottom line is winning. That's why we're holding millions of gallons of gas off the market. The price is gonna double.
Then, a few years later, the NES would come out, and Wild Gunman would release on the NES in 1985 as a launch title. Super Smash Bros. Crusade. Super Smash Bros. Crusade is a Smash Bros. Fan game that was in the works before Smash 4. The Duck Hunt dog is included as a fighter, but has a different moveset than the one he had in Smash 4. He isn't paired with a duck, so the dog uses ducks as weapons on certain normal attacks. And for his neutral special, he wields a zapper. This was honestly the take I expected for Duck Hunt and Smash, but I'm pleasantly surprised with what we got in the real deal. Duck Hunt is the oldest series in Smash. What? The Game & Watch existed before the NES! You're wrong and stupid! Say hello to Duck Hunt from 1976. This was a toy that utilized a projector and a light gun that definitely looks like a shotgun. The projector would showcase a white duck flying in random directions, and he'd have to shoot it. After it falls, another one would appear, and the game would just keep going on forever. It's the simplest version of Duck Hunt you can possibly think of, but it's still very impressive. This was essentially a working home video game 1 year before the release of the Atari 2600. Thus, this makes Duck Hunt one of the oldest franchises represented in Smash. Tetris DS. Tetris DS is a whole homage to classic NES games, so it's no surprise that Duck Hunt would make an appearance. When you reach level 19 in standard mode, both screens change to show off Duck Hunt themed aesthetics. An animation of the dog holding up ducks plays at the top, with a realistic background for some reason. There's also a sprite of the dog present at the bottom. Dog breed. The breed of the Duck Hunt dog isn't confirmed, but in the game's manual, he's referred to as a hound. Because of this, we can narrow down the breeds he could be significantly, and I can confidently call him a scent hound. Scent hounds are a type of hound that use scent over sight and are primarily used in hunting. Why am I confident in this? At the beginning of the game, the dog is sniffing the ground, then smells duck and pounces into the grass. And look at his appearance: saggy face, long droopy ears, and a generally small body. These characteristics fit most scent hounds, but most particularly the Basset Hound. It's practically a spitting image. No Zapper games in Captain N. In Captain N, the Game Master, the main characters travel through the world of gaming and fight any baddies along the way. But what's fairly interesting is that they never entered a game that uses a zapper, which is strange, considering the fact the main character's weapon is, well, a zapper. Duck Hunt Wii Virtual Console, rated by ESRB. Before the Wii was even released, the ESRB rated multiple games for the Virtual Console, but some of the listed games were removed later down the line. This includes Duck Hunt, pointing to the possibility that Duck Hunt was coming to Wii Virtual Console. It definitely would have been possible at the time, and even fitting, as the Wii Zapper is an accessory. Gumshoe absent from Smash. Gumshoe is a light gun game on the NES released in 1986. The game follows Mr. Stevenson, a detective, who has to save his daughter who's been taken hostage by the Mafia. This game sticks out because of the way you control Mr. Stevenson. You shoot him to make him jump as he automatically runs to the right. You can also shoot to take care of enemies. Fairly interesting concept, to say the least. However, what's strange is that this game has never gotten recognized in Smash. No trophy, no spirit, not even a sticker. Nintendo seems to have forgotten all about this game, which has led many to forget about it altogether. The Duck is the true hero of World of Light. There were a lot of memes around the time World of Light was revealed, saying that Sonic was the real hero of World of Light for trying to save Pikachu, even if he failed. However, nobody noticed that the Duck tried to do the same thing for the dog. Even though they had a rivalry over 2 decades ago, the Duck is now good enough friends with the dog to try to save his life. It's enough to make a grown man cry. Gumshoe racism. At the end of one of the levels in Gumshoe, you encounter this character. Yeah, I don't think I need to explain to you how this is racist. Maybe this is why Nintendo has swept Gumshoe under the rug. Swan on NES Zapper Posse Trophy. On the right side of the NES Zapper Posse Trophy is a white-colored duck, or possibly a swan, that doesn't appear in the NES game, nor anywhere else in Smash. It's theorized this is a reference to the previously mentioned 1976 Duck Hunt, where the ducks from the projector were a white color. Super Scope 15. The Nintendo Giga Leak was kind of a big deal. Out of the countless games leaked through this event, there was a sprite sheet found for an unreleased title called Super Scope 15. It's assumed this would have been a sequel to Super Scope 6, a game that came packaged with the SNES's Super Scope. In the sprite sheet itself, we can see a cowboy cardboard cutout character, who is seen aiming his gun at you and then falling over. This is reminiscent of the cowboys in Wild Gunman, with the cardboard cutouts coming from Hogan's Alley. It's possible Super Scope 15 would have included NES Zapper-inspired games into its collection. Smash changed public perceptions of the dog's character and personality. I mean, really, when was the last time you heard someone complain about the dog? You would think that any memes or jokes about wanting to shoot the Duck Hunt dog would explode after his reveal in Smash, but purely the opposite seemed to have happened. It might be due to his new cuter appearance, or that the 8-bit laugh sound effect isn't included, or purely because the character's moveset is just fun, but whatever the case, it seems that Smash has turned a loathed character into a loved one. Duck Hunt ended the gaming crash, not Rob or Mario. While this is quite a bold claim, I do think there's some truth to it. Video games were really stigmatized after the video game crash. Nobody had faith in them anymore after the awful games that were being churned out at the time. Eventually, Nintendo stepped into the spotlight, branded the NES as a toy more than a video game console. This was thanks to Rob, who is pretty much the Trojan horse of gaming. But we're overlooking an important part to the story. one that everyone seems to overlook: the NES Zapper, and by association, Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt is the second best-selling NES game of all time, because not only was the Zapper a selling point for the NES, but Duck Hunt was a known franchise at the time. The toy in 1976 was popular, and its release in American arcades came before the release of the NES. Its simplicity was appealing, and to American consumers, this was enough. Duck Hunt was well established before Mario was, so Duck Hunt's lasting image might have contributed to some of the success of the NES. I don't believe Duck Hunt was the only game that saved the gaming industry. That'd be pretty ridiculous to say, especially considering Super Mario Bros. Is the most recognizable game in history, but people should bring more attention to Duck Hunt's influence on the gaming industry. It deserves much more credit for what it did for gaming. And that was the Duck Hunt Iceberg. This was an incredibly niche topic, but I had a lot of fun researching this, and I hope you stuck around until the end. Thank you for watching, but I also want to give thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, including CSP67 and Johnny Punchfist. Go check out my Patreon in the description if you're thinking about supporting me. And that'll be all for me. I hope to see you again soon, and have a great rest of your day. Bye bye!